Welcome to World Today. I'm Sana Makbool, and in today's show we'll be talking about a couple of topics. Firstly, we'll be talking about the FATF giving Pakistan some more time to curb terror financing and of course meet other challenges and requirements regarding compliance to the action plan till September. We will also be talking about Afghanistan's peace process, and in this regard the recent Lahore process that is being happening in consultation with a lot of Afghan leadership as well, and we're going to look at the foreign minister's statement in this regard and see whether this is going to head towards concrete peace in Afghanistan and of course in Pakistan as well as a result. We'll also be talking about the recent visit of the Qatari leadership to Pakistan and how that is going to bolster ties between the two countries and what role that can play in terms of the Afghan peace process as well. To talk more about all these topics, we have been joined in our studios by senior analyst and foreign affairs experts, Brigadier Shahid Jahangir. Thank you very much for joining us. And Mr. Rauf Hassan, thank you for joining us, sir.
Sure, thank you.
Starting off, of course, with the FATF giving Pakistan some more time regarding the compliance. We see that there has been a heavy task given to the government officials in terms of meeting those challenges and requirements, and we see that one aspect which shines is the fact that a lot of departments will need to coordinate with each other, which is going to be a big challenge for the government. Do you see this being fulfilled in another 2 months by the government?
Okay, Sana, this was probably third or fourth round of talk which has taken place between the Pakistani officials and the Financial Action Task Force body.
Right.
There are certain good indicators in this discussion. One is that they have acknowledged that Pakistan has done quite a lot in this regard, and the steps taken have been really taken in this field to improve the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist forensic. However, they have given a list of 10 points which are their basic observations. The basic observations of the wholesome are that the implementation part of it.
Right.
Now, that's where the issue comes, what you were talking about, that all the agency, the NECTA, the monitoring units, the CTD and all, they have to coordinate. Now, all these agencies are working at their best to do that, but still there is always a room. We are a developing country, and we need all these procedures to be set and forth. We have told the Financial Action Task Force that we are ready and we will do utmost our endeavor to fulfill the world obligation which are important for us, and we will do everything possible with us that we can curb these two things, the anti-money laundering and terrorist forensic.
Right.
Now, it is very important, as you said, that the agencies which are working to monitor, control and curb these two tendencies have to work hands in glove with each other. Now, for that, the most important thing is first of all is the intelligence gathering. So, all these agencies have to work together, that if one intelligence agency or the one agency which gets the intelligence about an individual or an organization which is involved in these two, they have to pass it on to the others.
Right, of course, it's all interlinked.
It's all interlinked. Now, that is very important to do. Then all have to take action simultaneously and in a coordinated manner, so that a wholesome effort is seen to be have done.
Yes, but that's not an easy task, and we've seen previous governments also facing this challenge.
Absolutely. We don't have the data bank for which the FPR and State Bank of Pakistan is doing its endeavor. We have recently seen actions like the unnamed accounts to be undeclared, biometric verification of all the account holders, then the asset declaration, which has FPR has launched a portal for that, and you just pin up your ID card in that, and you can see, then you can say that what assets I own and what assets I don't own. So, all these measures are being taken, but at the same time I would request the international community and the Financial Action Task Team from your program that there are 2-3 things which are hampering our efforts in this regard. One is a very short time-barred action which we are being asked to do.
Exactly.
We are a developing country, we are developing a database, and we are making every effort to do that and coordinate all that. So instead of bullying us around, the Financial Action Task Force and the world community should help us out, should guide us, and should give us acknowledge our efforts. The second thing is that Financial Action Task Force is also a bit politicized at the international level. We see India, doing all its effort to, put us on the backlist, assisted by a few others, European countries and the Americans. But that needs to be, seen in a good perspective, and we should not be, our arms should not be twisted around for that matter. We have sacrificed so much in the last 40 years war on terror, which was basically a European war. This terrorism over here in Pakistan was not before 80, it was never heard of. Now, the moment, the 9/11 happened and, Americans and the allied forces came up in Afghanistan, that's when we started having the a barrage of the terrorist acts in Pakistan. What else we do? We have sacrificed our next generation in the shape of, attack on APS Peshawar. Then there is another which is very important aspect, is that international community has to cooperate with us. Now, on the one side, they tell us that we need to curb the anti-money laundering and terrorist financing, but when we say them that these individuals are there with you, now they say that these are politically motivated things.
Right. Mr. Rauf, do you agree with the fact that the FATF demands seem to be a little unjustified in terms of being the time being too less, or them not really substantiating the fact that there are many concrete challenges that the government yet had to face, and even if they do take measures, they might not be able to fulfill them by September?
In one word, no. I don't think they are unreasonable, and not unreasonable at all, as a matter of fact. This is not a case which has come up in the last 1 year. This is a case that we have been aware of for a number of years in this country. What would you say of a country where the former head of the government and head of the state are today being prosecuted for money laundering?
Right.
Do we need, does the world need any further proof that we are involved in this? Two, Brigade Saab has, I think, given the basic details. Now, let me give you another perspective to it. The important thing is that we investigate, we prosecute, and we convict. The percentage of conviction in this country is virtually zero. What message are we communicating to the world? That we're not serious. We're not communicating the message that we are serious. The message that we are communicating is that we're non-serious.
Right.
All these non-state actors, all these religious parties. Give me one example of a person who has been convicted. All the Schedule 4 people. Give me one example of a person who has been convicted. So whose fault is that? In the last 5 years, for example, in the 5 years of the previous government, they took years and years and years in operationalizing NACTA, which is the principal institution to look into these matters. And that institution was perceived and enacted to do this task. And they took years. They would not even, give them funds to start operating. I always point this finger not like this, but like this. I feel that we have to look inwards. We have to see exactly what are our faults. Hundi, Hawala,
right.
Well, bulk of the money from this country has been transferred out via these bodies. The banking channels have not been used. This is not something for which they will have to struggle to find facts and figures. They already have all that in their custody, and that is why they're pressing us hard now. The time for taking kind of refuge behind this or that excuse is past. I think it is now time for us to do it at double speed.
Right.
And you see, what it can lead to, I totally agree with one point that Brigadier Saab says, that there is a level of politicization to it. There is. It is not just India. It is also the United States of America. It is also other countries. Why? Because these countries have little faith in Pakistan's ability to handle this.
Sure.
And that is why it has led to a loss of
Sure,
faith.
so of course to counter that, you still need a lot of groundwork for them to be able to trust you.
Yeah, but you have to do all this and then win their faith. You can't hide behind the fact that since it has been politicized, so, that is why we're being punished. No. Politicization could be an added factor, a small added factor. But facts and figures are there on the basis of which, they are asking you to do so much more, which Brigadier Saab has explained.
Right, and
So-
even now they require actions and investigations against designated individuals and entities, and not just that, they need prosecutions as well, and to result, like you said, in actual convictions.
Conviction is
Right.
important. How
Right.
many people have been punished? That is what they would like to know. These institutions, have they collaborated with each other? Have they worked together? FBR, State Bank of Pakistan, NACTA, the police forces and everybody else, they have to work together. They have to make one network of organizations, which not only looks into this, which, that is only the beginning.
Right.
You have to go through the process of leading to the conviction of these people who have been guilty of money laundering, who have been guilty of, funding these institutions, which are involved in terror in this country. And also, we will also have to look, this is a very delicate matter, but, some countries with whom we have very friendly relations, they too in the past, and maybe even now, have been involved in funding these institutions. Because it was kind of a global war.
Right.
And three, another point that I want to make, terror has come to this country not because somebody has pushed it here. It has come to this country because we became part of that war, which was not our war. We had the option. We could have said, no, we don't want to move into Afghanistan. We don't want to fight the Russian forces. But we opted to fight. We had our own political compulsions, our own strategic compulsions to do it. That brought terror to Pakistan. So it is not that anybody else pushed it into Pakistan. Right. They may have been instrumental, they may have sort of, been there also, but the principal responsibility has to rest on the state of Pakistan. We took a conscious decision to do that and so many other things. And unfortunately, I feel that some of those things we are still engaged in doing. And
right.
we have to get away from all that.
Right, because
it's important for Pakistan's
keeping
future.
in view the necessity of convictions and the measures that you say that are being taken in this regard in terms of all the departments to work together. Do you really see that we can actually bring about some real convictions or something real to show up before the next review?
Yeah. Look, Sana, as I was saying that we are doing our effort. There is no doubt, as my colleague has said, that the conviction rate is very low. Everything, whenever big shot is caught, the issue becomes of the democracy. We have seen in our country that people, all the big guns which have been, I would not say accused, but labeled to be involved in all these things. Now, judiciary has to play a very vital role. You have to, because once somebody is labeled, then what has to be done? He has to be interrogated.
Right.
The challan has to be made. He has to be brought in front of the magistrate, and then due course of law takes in place. Now, all these are very important things. That's what I say, that all these institutions have to work hands in glove. Till the time we will not facilitate them, till the time we will not help them to do that, till the time we will not make our effort at the national level to build their capacity to handle this menace, it is not possible to do that. Now, for that, this government at least have come up very seriously. This financial action task force issue is not of today.
Of course, yes.
It is, a decade old, but the people have, just put a blind eye toward this side, and that is why it has got aggravated now. Now, when it has got aggravated, and we were being threatened that we will be put on the blacklist, that is when we started working on this. Now, when we have started working, now that's what I said, that there is an external factor, there is an internal factor. Internal factor, yes, as my colleague has said, we have to be very strict on this. This is very, very important for our country. This is very, very important for any civilized country which has to live into the civic comity of the world. But at the same time, as I say, that Altaf Hussain, I never wanted to name, who doesn't know that he is in England, he has been financing terror in Pakistan. Why not the Britishers hand it over to us? There is another guy who has, has been involved, and he is being told whenever Pakistani goes over there, they say that it's a politically motivated case. Now, that's where I say that the government, the governments which are involved to monitor us, they have to help us out also.
Of course, the support and the help of the international community in this regard cannot be ignored. And of course, with regards to that, we also understand that when we talk about peace process in Afghanistan, we need Afghanistan to also help in that regard as well. And the recent Lahore process that is happening, in which the foreign minister also stated that Pakistan wants Afghanistan, which is at peace with itself. And Pakistan's stance on Afghanistan has been very clear for a long time now, but we still see that somehow the peace process gets derailed by one reason or the other. There's a lot of mistrust, with lots of blame game between the leadership of Afghanistan and Pakistan, and we need to see progress in that regard. Do you think that the Lahore process that is happening will be able to pave way for actual concrete peace and stability?
It's a very difficult question to answer, but the so-called Lahore process, where the meeting instead was held in Murree, it has demonstrated to the world one thing, which is very important, that in addition to being close to Taliban, being in a position to influence them to a certain extent, we are also close to other factions within the Afghan society. And all of them, bulk of them at least, I mean, Hamid Karzai was missing and a couple of other important names are missing, but bulk of them came here. So we have been able to demonstrate to the world that, look, we not only are close to these people also, we are willing to work with all of them. And that is the critical issue with regard to peace in Afghanistan, where the talks between the US and Taliban are stuck on the question of intra-Afghanistan dialogue. That means all factions within Afghanistan, including the government of Kabul, they sit together on one table and they build a consensus.
Right.
That unfortunately has not happened, and that unfortunately is not likely to happen also, because the president of Afghanistan unfortunately has become an impediment to the process. Because he insists on holding the elections in September, he insists that he's elected the president of Afghanistan, and he insists that he leads the charge and that Taliban come and talk to him. Taliban's position has been very consistent from day one, and they said, we don't recognize this government. This is a puppet regime. The real government is America, and we are talking to the Americans. And they, in fact, out of the 4 steps, which they wanted to go over, they have already possibly struck a deal, kind of a draft deal, on 2 of them. And third one is the intra-Afghan dialogue, and fourth one, of course, is ceasefire. So they're not here; they're stuck here. They're stuck here, and the likelihood of them succeeding. I've been dealing with Afghanistan for a number of years now through Track 2 diplomacy, and I feel that the sentiments over there are very, very strong. And if the elections are held in September, and if President Ghani is elected president, then that peace in Afghanistan would become even more elusive. What the Americans are trying to do, they want that the elections are postponed, and instead an interim government is set up. An interim government, when set up, Taliban would be a founding member of that, just like all other political parties, ethnic groups of Afghanistan will also become founding members of that interim government. So they will be able to sit together on the same table and talk things out. The principal task given to that interim government, will be rehashing the constitution based on the input from Taliban, and they will be given about 18 to 24 months. And at the conclusion of that, you will possibly have a new constitution. That's another big if. That is in case there is a consensus, which all the ethnic groups are able to build among themselves. So you will have a new constitution, and the presidential elections, will then be held on the basis of that constitution. Now, the other issue which is still in Afghanistan, which is impeding the progress of the peace talks, is the timeline of withdrawal. Principal agreement has been reached that the American troops will leave Afghanistan, but they are reluctant to give a timeline. Why? That is because that hypothetically, even if an agreement is reached between the Taliban and the US, what is the guarantee that Taliban will not take over? Because they are the only military power in Afghanistan other than the Kabul government. So what they're trying to do is that, together with reaching an agreement, they also want an implementation mechanism. And this is where another real major crisis is, because the Taliban insist that We want all foreign forces out of Afghanistan before holding up the next presidential elections. But the Americans and some other powers are saying that we may need a period of 5 to 10 years to station some troops here so that they're able to implement the whole peace agreement. So these are the main issues. And that cannot be sorted out in a conference of this kind. For that, I think more strenuous, more aggressive, and more, how should I put it? I think more pragmatic
right. But Pakistan
decisions
still
will have to
has
be
played
taken.
a role in terms of paving the way for this new peace process that has been happening between the US and the Taliban in Afghanistan. Do you think that any other more practical role, like you said, more pragmatic role that Pakistani leadership can play in this regard? We of course have the upcoming visit of the president as well from Afghanistan.
Well, I've written a couple of articles on that also, but the fact is, that Pakistan's pragmatic role is to stay out of Afghan politics. And this is, I think, what the government of Pakistan has been saying now for quite some time. We want to stay out of. It is basically up to Afghan people, to build a consensus around a peace deal.
Right.
Pakistan can play the role of a facilitator, which Pakistan has been doing, and Pakistan possibly shall continue to do. But whether that is going to be enough is something which has many question marks. In the past, yes, the pressure has been on Pakistan. Even today, the pressure is on Pakistan to do more, and possibly this so-called Lahore process was a key in that direction. That look,
right.
we have tried to persuade these people also to join the peace talks
right,
and all.
Because of course, at the end of the day, Pakistan's interest lies in a peaceful Afghanistan.
Absolutely, but the bottom line is, will the Afghans be able to get together to have peace in their own country? That is the critical bottom line. Pakistan cannot force them to do it. They have to work towards that end by talking to one another. And for that, the starting point is that Taliban sit together on the same table with these ethnic groups, but they're not willing to do that.
Right. Brigadier Saab, do you see any significance of the Lahore process?
Yes, I think it's a good step forward as far as the Afghanistan peace process is concerned, because the Russia has got involved, China has got involved, all the regional countries have got involved, and Pakistan has been making an effort, because peace in Pakistan is linked with Afghanistan and vice versa. So it is the country which would be most comfortable and economically prosperous when a peace comes to Afghanistan is Pakistan. We have not today, but we have from the very first day have been telling to all the world that they should come to the negotiation table and decide the issue on the table. We have released Mullah Umar brother from our custody on the request of Americans, who is now leading the Afghan peace process. So Pakistan has always played a very positive role and has always suggested that they should sit down and talk. But the issue is, look, when you read the history of the insurgency, the insurgents, whenever they are successful in the history of insurgency, they want that the forces with which they have fought, they should leave the place, whether you talk of Vietnam, whether you talk of any other insurgency, because their victory is only when they can tell their people, those who are following them, that look, we have thrown them out of this thing. And that is what Hikmat Yar has also urged in the day before yesterday's conference also, because that is very important for the Taliban to revive as to be viable as a force, political as well as military force. The second important thing is that Taliban, what they want is that, as my colleague has said, that they see the present government as a puppet. They want that the over a period of time, what has been one can conclude from them, that they want to sit with all the Talibans, but not as a government, because they don't recognize that government. Over a period of time, they have met, and if they will keep on meeting with each other, I'm sure a time will come when they will find a middle ground in which they will be able to sort out this issue. A 40 years wars cannot be settled in 40 days. It will take time. And as Maqbool Saab has said that Afghans have to find the solution for themselves. All those who are negotiating from and the other side of Afghanistan, they have to understand the Afghan history, Afghan culture, which is very important and very close to the Afghans' hearts. They cannot, you cannot subdue them by force. No, that is a history we have also seen in the last 40 years. So, more dialogues. This is a good omen that this conference has been done, and President Ashraf Ghani will be coming following a few days, and then there is another conference which is going to be held in probably Germany. So, the more we will talk to them, the more we will tell them to come toward each other, and I think a time will come when both these have to resort to the peace, because both are hungry, both warring factions are hungry for the peace now.
Right, of course. Another aspect that was discussed was regarding the repatriation of Afghan refugees, and of course that is something which is very important for Pakistan to be able to do. What do you think Pakistan can do in this regard in terms of making sure that this repatriation happens, and for that do we need to, is it necessary for Pakistan to be able to wait for peace in Afghanistan? I mean, it has hosted the refugees for decades now. So what is the step forward for the Pakistani leadership in this regard?
Pakistan has pursued a very unrealistic policy when it comes to the refugees. Basically, a bulk of these refugees have integrated into Pakistani society. They've gotten married here. Right. They have children, they have grandchildren. They bought businesses here. They bought properties here, and it's virtually impossible to kick them out. And even the rest of them, basically, who have not been that far integrated into Pakistani society, most of them do not want to go back, because there are few chances back in Afghanistan, for them to restart a life. So I think, we have been discussing this in our Track 2 dialogues also, and I think when I say pragmatic policy, it means that you must look at the prospect of integrating these people into Pakistani society, and of course, after clearance from security perspective and all that kind of thing, that process can be initiated, and you can take it through to its logical conclusion. But if you expect that these people will leave Pakistan now or at the conclusion of peace deal in Afghanistan, I think that's a very unrealistic expectation. I've been personally involved in this, and I think bulk of them would not like to leave Pakistan. They would like to have some opportunity. They would like to have all those people who have not already started their lives here, who have not already been integrated into Pakistani society. I think they would also like to be given a chance, that they have. From the United Nations perspective, who have been dealing, with this refugee crisis, they feel that it is incumbent on the government of Pakistan, now that they have lived here for a good 4 decades or so, they deserve, by international laws and all that, they deserve to be given Pakistani nationality. Right. And all that. But Pakistan has always been drumming up, the security perspective, which is definitely there. So maybe, the reality and that pragmatic thing that I keep talking about possibly lies somewhere in between, that, we also keep our mind open with regard to integrating them into our society, as well as those people who want to go back, they should be facilitated to go back. And for that, we would need the help and assistance of the government of Kabul. Government of Afghanistan, they have to be there. They have to welcome them back in Afghanistan, and they also have to facilitate their settling down again in Afghanistan. The government of Afghanistan at this moment in time possibly does not have the resources to do it. And I think this is one of the principal causes, why these people are not thinking in terms of leaving. Otherwise, everybody would like to go back home. I mean, when I stay away from my own home, basically, the only thing which is on my mind is to get back. So they would also like to get back. But the circumstances obtaining in Afghanistan, the conditions obtaining in Afghanistan, and the lack of opportunities which are there in Afghanistan, I think these are the debilitating factors, which are not helping the matter in terms of their movement back to Afghanistan. So this process, this problem is going to subsist. It's not going to be sorted out in a day or a month or a year or 2 years. I think it is going to remain. So it calls for a review of attitudes and positions on both sides. I think only then would we be able to sort of, come to a consensus, that, well, some of them stay back here and, those who are interested in going back, they should go back to Afghanistan.
Right, of course, and as you said, after we, of course, if we look at towards the peace talks and after we do reach a conclusion, if there is one, then of course there needs to be a lot of responsibility on the Afghan government to bring about development in Afghanistan and to bring about the opportunities for the people in Afghanistan. Do you see that the government has a vision for that?
Sana, this is another very crucial question for the Afghan peace process, and also how the Afghanistan will look like tomorrow. The Americans have very clearly, they raised their hands. Sorry, we are not here for rebuilding of the Afghanistan. Then who will give that money? Who will rebuild Afghanistan? Until the time, as has been said, that till the time the Afghanistan is not prosperous, there is no employment opportunity, there is no business over there, there is no economy over there. So why should somebody return back to Afghanistan? Because this is going to come up a very, very crucial question which the world at the moment is not looking at. That at the moment, roughly I would say that about 150 billions are being spent on the Afghan forces, ISF forces which are being maintained. The moment these forces leave, so Afghan do not have any economy at this moment. So how they will sustain the Afghan government?
Right.
How they will, kickstart or restart the economic engine of Afghanistan? That is a very, very big question. And till the time that is done, I don't think that we will be able to, repatriate. The world has to sit down, the Paris Club or the others, and have to sort it out. That how to, when they leave, the outside forces leave, how the economic engine of the Afghanistan has to restart, and how the funding has to go in that, and a massive funding has to go in that. And at this time, when Europe is might not be ready for the big funding as far as their capacity is concerned. Maybe the Islamic countries have to come in, and China has to come in, and Russia maybe have to contribute something in this, and maybe the European Union, because this is very, very important question.
Right.
The peace in Afghanistan cannot be achieved till the time the one who is holding a gun, you give him a job tomorrow, and he starts earning.
Right. Of course, we cannot underestimate the importance of regional countries. And recently, we had the Emir of Qatar also visiting Pakistan, and including all talks that were talked about. There was also the Afghan issue, of course, and the efforts that Qatar or other regional countries can play or have played in promoting peace and reconciliation. How important do you see it is for regional countries to also participate in this regard?
Well, it's important, but Pakistan is walking away. It's doing a tightrope stint, at this moment in time. I mean, Iran is a next-door neighbor. Qatar is ostracized by the Arab community, by the Saudis, by the Emiratis. They have been blocked. They have been actually blockaded, not blocked. They've been blockaded. Pakistan has to live with its neighbors. Pakistan has to live with Iran. Qatar has, traditional relations, good traditional relations with Pakistan. So Pakistan has to, maintain that relationship also. Then at the other end of the spectrum, is Pakistan being part of this so-called anti-terror force which has been created in Saudi Arabia. Our former chief of the army staff is today heading it. So it's a very delicate balance, that Pakistan has to maintain. I must say, and it goes to the credit of the Foreign Office, they're doing a good job at this moment in time. But the important thing is how far could Pakistan be able to walk that tightrope? Because I think the way things are sort of being agitated in that part of the world, with the American forces, now stationed, very close to Iran and, in large numbers, with the threat of war looming, and so many other things, basically. I think, soon enough, a situation may arise where Pakistan has to be far more decisive in terms of, defining its relations, with so many countries in the region. And that's very important. And I feel that, that is why I've always talked about it, and I've always written about it, that it is always better to have your eggs in many baskets. Don't ever put your eggs in one basket, because if that happens, and that unfortunately has been the dilemma, consistent and persistent dilemma of Pakistan's foreign policy. When we were with the Americans, we had put all our eggs in that basket, Now we have put all our eggs, in the basket, of our relation with China. This is bad foreign. But I think on this, as I said, I think it's a good job, that the Foreign Office is doing, and I think it needs to continue that. But all these countries, if you are talking in the context of peace in Afghanistan, these countries have to play a role. And we were all in it together. And, the rebuilding of Afghanistan, creating opportunities there for people to return to Afghanistan and for Afghanistan to become a viable country onto itself. I think these are challenges, that the world would be facing post an agreement peace agreement in Afghanistan, which may take, some time even now. But no country, would be able to sort of walk out of its responsibility, saying that, well, I don't have the money and all that, because these countries have money. It is a question of redefining their priorities. Peace in Afghanistan will not come simply because America and the Taliban sign a peace deal. No.
Of course, yes.
That is only the beginning. The challenges come after that. How do you create opportunities? That is my basic contention. You have to create opportunities in that country. And that will happen when you develop Afghanistan along many lines and in many directions.
Right. Before we conclude, we're just taking a quick look at the visit of the Emir of Qatar in Pakistan in terms of bolstering bilateral trade and economic ties between the two countries. How significant do you see it was?
It's very important. The trade, investment, joint working group has been made, cooperation on tourism has been made. And the most important thing is financial intelligence, anti-money laundering and terror financing MOU we have signed, because there are many in Pakistan, those who have, lodged their money over there. So, also in defense production, maritime affairs, aviation, he has shown a lot of, interest in the JF-17 and all.
Right.
Also agriculture, food sector, trade and others. But this is also very important as far as his visit at this time, when, President Ashraf Ghani will also be the present president will also be visiting. So that has also been discussed. The importance of Qatar has also, has been highlighted because of the recent standoff in the Gulf. Because the 70% of the oil which is produced, it goes out of the Gulf. So Qatar has a very, very important role to play, because it has a major American base also over there. I'm sure that thing would have also been discussed. But the most important thing for Pakistan at this time is that we get maximum foreign direct investment. That is where the Qatar can help us. We are energy starved. We need oil and gas to kickstart our economy and all. So that is again very, very important. We have the opportunity of land, we have the agriculture, we have experience of agriculture. The Qatar can get a help from us in this regard. So it's a very, very important visit, and I think this will mutually benefit both countries.
Mr. Rao, what do you think about the Qatari leadership visit and the importance of foreign direct investment in Pakistan?
Well, there's no second opinion about the FDI. Foreign direct investment is the critical factor, that Pakistan has been lacking in for the last so many decades. Nobody is interested. But this FATF has to be linked, with FDI. There's going to be no FDI in Pakistan until and unless we are cleared by the FATF. This is an international thing. It's not just between two countries, and that is the reason why Qatar insisted on signing the intelligence exchange deal before.
Right.
So they want to be very sure that their investment in this country is not going to be subject to all that. The visit is very, very. It can yield positive results. It can help Pakistan take off, in case that investment comes, Right now we don't have investment. We only have promises of investment, Just like with the Saudis, they committed to investing, but that money has still not started coming in. So the important thing would be to walk the talk. And I'm one of those people, basically. The check is you never receive the money until the check has been deposited in your account and your bank has confirmed that the money is cleared and it is now in your account. That is the time when I would say that, yes, it has been done. At this moment in time, the promises. I would like to see those promises transformed into actual physical investment coming to Pakistan.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Rauf Hassan and Brigadier Saab, for being with us and talking to us regarding these important issues. Of course, what needs to be done is the fact that there needs to be more coordinated effort and perhaps a re-evaluation of strategies if future demands are to be met. On that note, it's goodbye.